This is Due to Bet Sports. Due to Bet Sports, it's your favorite show. Due to Bet Sports, where degenerates go. Due to Bet Sports, time to change your approach with Aaron Haldeman and his father, the coach. Let's ride.
Well, the Associated Press is full of shit.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Dudes Who Bet Sports show. The sun's out for the first time in like 3 days, right when we come on the air, so that's nice. But the sun is finally shining here in the Ozarks, and we've got a lot to talk about today, racing-wise and sports-wise. Papa Dude, how are we this week?
I'm great. Looks good out there. I think we're going to get above freezing. We may already be above freezing today.
Yes.
For the first time since Sunday, I think. We've been in a sub-zero temp, not zero, but sub-30 temperatures with ice on the ground, and it's been kind of fun, really, if you don't have to do anything.
When you don't have to leave the house, it is fun, for sure.
The main roads have been clear for the most part.
Yeah. For sure. Well, we've like I said, we've got a lot going on, a lot to talk about, and it's going to be a mostly Oaklawn Park show. Before we get into this week's Oaklawn races, let's kind of look back to last week for just a second. You had Arabian Night in the Southwest. You had some horses that a lot of people thought were pretty darn excited about, but in the end, it was Arabian Night all the way.
Yeah, as I said on this show and the Daily Show, I'm one that has to be, I have to see him. He's only running a maiden, and I like to see him beat somebody. I don't exactly know how strong the field was. We'll figure that out down the line. Mm-hmm. But the track was awful. He went wire to wire. What else is he supposed to prove? You know, all you can do is win the race you're in. And he did, and he won it easy. So there's a lot to be excited about with this one. And Baffert came to Oaklawn, which I think is pretty important because he usually doesn't, which means he either wanted to get out of California or he really likes his horse. So I want to add, I'm sure you guys have talked about this, but so as I understand it, none of the Baffert horses can run in the Kentucky Derby, correct?
Well,
as of now.
You have to, as of right now, you have to have them transferred out of his care by the 1st of March.
Okay, so they can run, but he can't train them.
Correct. Yes. As of right now, that could change. You know, I think there's appeals in process right now, but as of now, that is the rule. Yes.
And that's basically what it was last year too, right?
Well, last year it was just the rule was they could not earn Kentucky Derby points with him as a trainer, but he could change them like the day before they enter, let's say, and it's fine. This year they changed the rule where if they're in if he's training them after February 28th, then it doesn't matter if they transfer. He cannot they cannot earn Kentucky Derby points. Okay. Again, they're appealing for it. And we'll see what happens with that ruling. But as of now, that is the rule that's been put in place.
So wherever his horses aren't banned, which there are some tracks he can't run at, right?
Churchill Downs and the Naira Circuit are the only two.
Okay, that's what I thought. So he can go in any prep he wants with his horses and win all these preps. But theoretically, he can't train the horse in the Derby. But the horse can run in the Derby if somebody else is training him.
Yeah,
by March the 1st.
Right. They can't earn points under his name, and they cannot run under his name. Exactly. But, again, it could change, but that is the rule right now. And that complicates things with a horse like Arabian Night. Where's he going to run? Who's he going to be with? All that kind of stuff. And like I've said for a while now, I hate it. Like to me, it pushes the handicappers and the fans a lot more than it does Bob Baffert.
Well, it's not good for racing.
No, it's not. It's really not.
If something happens and the best horses can't participate in the Derby, because let's face it, a lot of people think, okay, well, heck, you give him to another trainer for 2 months. What's he going to do to mess him up?
Yeah.
He's not Bob Baffert. Whoever you give him to is not Bob Baffert. The guy's got great horses for a reason. He, you may not like him, but he is a great trainer. There's no doubt about it. He knows how to get a horse ready to run.
Sure. And that's why he keeps getting them, even though they have this restriction. And I was wrong. The Naira ban was lifted last week. I must have missed that news. So, but Michael would definitely know. I'll trust his opinion on it. So that means he can run in the Belmont. Another thing that it's kind of been speculated, and there's no, I have no idea if this is going to happen or not, but what if they just keep him with Baffert and they try to run in the Preakness of the Belmont? They kind of target that and not the Derby. We kind of speculated that could happen last year. It didn't. Maybe it happens this year. I don't know that for a fact, but that is something that you might keep an eye on. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe a trainer or two, or an owner or two, maybe they take that route.
They might. Yeah.
I thought he was great though. If you get
I did too.
Past that, he was great, and he took step one of a couple more steps. Obviously, they're going to have to be taken, but that was a big test, and he passed it. So, what can you do there? Gunite, let's talk about him.
Yeah, great.
He was awesome in the King Cotton. What do you think of Gunite?
Well, it's kind of like you said on our show last week. If he's in form, it's men against the boys, pretty much in that race, and that's kind of what he did. He just looked different, didn't he? He just looked different than the rest of them, and he is when he's on. I think he's going to have a great year.
Yep.
I'll be surprised. What about the other Baffert horse, the San Vicente? Do you like that one too? It was an all Baffert field just about, but he looked good.
Yeah, having a meltdown looked good. He said right after the race he's going to be a sprinter, and so that they don't look for Kentucky Derby. But hey, there's still a lot of good sprint races that he can go win, and I think he'll be tough in them. I liked Falston's effort. He was second in the race. He is not a sprinter whatsoever, and so that's kind of a big thing to kind of look at and say, well, when he stretches out, he's probably going to be a lot better. He probably shouldn't be real competitive with a horse like having a meltdown at 6 or 7 furlongs. So I think both of them, I don't think they're Arabian Night, Cave Rock types, but I think they're maybe right there in that kind of that next set. So I thought they were good. I think both of them are gonna be pretty good horses down the line as well. The other one to talk about at Oaklawn, we talked about Wet Paint.
Right.
In the Martha Washington, we were able to beat the heavy Kenny McPeak favorite in there with Wet Paint for Brad Cox. Any thoughts on her? I thought it was an okay race, nothing great. What about you?
Yeah, I'm the same. The horse did show a lot of promise though, and probably have to look at this one to see if it takes that next step. I guess the next one they go into the fantasy, I believe, is next. The next race for
it'll be the Honeybee and then the fantasy.
Do what?
The Honeybee and then
the Honeybee. Yeah. Do you think he will keep that horse there?
Seems like he probably will. The way they ran, I thought that was pretty good. Pretty good effort, and I think they'll keep him right there. And sometimes they'll skip that Honeybee and go right to the fantasy. Sometimes they'll run in both. So he's got options there. I think he's got a little bit easier route with Hoosier Philly down at Fairgrounds in New Orleans. So I think he'll stick right there.
I do too. Yeah. And he knows what he's doing. He's another guy you don't need to worry about. He knows what he's doing.
Exactly. So a couple comments before we get into the handicapping department here. Rodney says he read where Arabian Night won't be back till either the Arkansas Derby or the Santa Anita Derby. Makes a ton of sense. That's probably, where he should show up next. I'm just going to throw this out there. Santa Anita Derby, Preakness. I think it makes a ton of sense. I think it would be really hard to beat if he skipped the Derby and went to the Preakness and just stayed right there with Bobby. I would, with a horse like this, it's lightly raised. God, I would almost try it. I really think that's such a logical step. And it's also kind of a FU to Churchill Downs.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, and I just think it's not crazy,
I'll show you boys. You don't want my horse there? Well, we won't go. We'll mess up the Triple Crown. How about that?
He's got an owner that kind of got screwed out of that Kentucky Derby as well with Medina Spirit. Maybe they just say the hell with them. We'll see on that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I did read where he's going to be back on one of those two races. And look, he'll be the favorite, most likely. You never know who else is going to be there, but he's going to be a short price for sure. Yeah, and Charge It is back this weekend. It'll be Sunday at Gulfstream Park, so it's fun to see Charge It back. I know you followed Charge It a lot. Kind of last year was your first year on the Derby Trail working with us, and he was impressive.
He was. He kind of fizzled a little bit. I thought he was going to be a lot better than what he was.
Well, he fizzled in the Derby, but he did
Yeah.
come back and run really well after. And then
He did. And it's good to see him back because we talked about last week. The older horses are there's no superstars in there. There's somebody begging to come forward in that much.
For sure. And maybe he's the one. We definitely need him for sure.
Yeah.
Michael pointed out as well that lack of horses in that division. One last question before we get to the handicapping, because I do have news on this horse. Rodney asked about Gulfport. Where the heck is he at? They stopped on him, but he's back. He's training at Fairgrounds right now. He's had 3 or 4 works. Don't quote me on that. It's one or the other. 3 or 4 works back for Asmussen. I got a report on him. He's supposedly doing very well. So maybe keep an eye out for Gulfport. He had a lot of talent. We'll see what happens with him. But he's supposedly training extremely well down at Fairgrounds right now. So
that's good to hear.
That's one to keep an eye out on. Okay, let's go to the handicapping now portion of the show. We're going to go to Oaklawn Park. And we cover Oaklawn on this show. We're going to go to Saturday's feature race and the feature race of the week at Oaklawn first. It's race 9. It's the Bayakoa Stakes. Grade 3 race here, going a mile and 16th. A purse of $250,000. Field of 7. Papa Dude, we've talked about these horses twice on this show. They're right back around again.
They are.
Go for it. Who do you like in the Bayakoa?
We've talked about 3 of them extensively. You know, we do have a new shooter in here that I think is interesting, very interesting. So Ice Orchid and Lovely Ride and what is that? Leda Vida?
Yeah, Leda Vida. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We've talked about Powder River's been around. Yep. So they're kind of going at it again. Last time, Lovely Ride nosed out Ice Orchid for the win by 3/4 of a length. I'm going to go with the 1. Brad Cox is sending in. You pronounce that Amore.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And coming in from Fairgrounds, won by 3 lengths in a 100K stakes race last time out. Coming in here, I don't think he'd ship this horse up here if he didn't think he could win. Lovely Ride has been very impressive, and there's really no reason not to bet against him. I would put him second. And I always have liked Ice Orchid. So I kind of like the number 1. I'm going to put him on top with Lovely Ride and Ice Orchid. Put him second or third any way you want him.
Shotty says, come on, Johnny Ortiz. I'm going to try Ice Orchid one more time in this spot.
I love the horse.
Tried her last time out, and boy, she didn't disappoint. She ran really, really well. She just could not catch Lovely Ride in the end. I just feel like, the 5 going to put this horse in this race again. I thought last time out the 5 would press Lovely Ride. Didn't do it. I think this time you got to do it. Just go press the 7 a little bit. I think she'll come back to you, and it will set it up for a horse like Ice Orchid, who I'll put on top. Leda Vida, who I think's got a big chance, and your horse, the number 1 as well, Amore. I think all of them can come get the 7 Lovely Ride. You got to put a little pressure on that horse early. Mm-hmm. Hopefully somebody does it. But like you said, 2 for 2, same type of horses each time, and she's just simply better than them.
Yep. You're right about that 5. It's got to go out and get the 7.
I said the same thing last time, though, and I got so mad. It didn't really. But, yeah, the 5.
Same trainer. He's obviously putting that horse in to press the 7, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and I just think this time – you're gonna see it. You're gonna see the 5 just go out there and set it up for the other Ortiz horse, and just make things tough on Lovely Ride. And you've seen this twice, same track, same bunch of horses. Lovely Ride's been able to kind of control the pace. You can't let her do it again.
Right.
So you got to go out there and at least try. And then if she faces pressure and she's still able to beat you, then you just tip your hat. But you got to make it difficult on her in the spot. That's what I'm hoping they do with her here. Now, any interest in any kind of a long shot? I don't here.
No, I don't either.
Yeah.
I don't know if you call 4 a long shot, but, hasn't run bad. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think these 4 are the class of the field.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I think it's going to be one of those. You're on the number 1 as far as a top choice, and I am going to be on the number 3, and we'll see if we can Get the job done this time and beat Lovely Ride. We've been trying to beat her.
We've tried.
I know. We'll keep trying. Well, listen, we were hot on the show last week, so maybe we can keep that up. All right, let's go 2 races earlier at Oaklawn Park, because I think this one is a pretty big race as well, and one that could produce a Kentucky Derby, at least horse that'll jump onto the trail and try a prep race next. It's race 7 on the card, 4 3-year-olds, an allowance optional claimer going 1 mile, $103,000 purse. Field of 7 here. A big favorite with Asmussen and the number 2 Gun Pilot. If you forget about Gun Pilot, he was second last time out to Verifying, who we talked about. Very impressive horse. All right, Papa Dude, are you going Gun Pilot or are you going elsewhere?
Oh, definitely. I think he's the class of the horse. It's a gun runner horse. You know, that immediately gets my attention. And I imagine it does you too.
Sure.
Hadn't done anything wrong. Got beat by a great horse last time out. No disgrace there. I think definitely the winner of this will be put on the Kentucky Derby trail, don't you? This is kind of a prep for that. As Vic Stauffer says a lot down at Oaklawn, this is an allowance race with stakes quality horses in it. I'm pretty – you're going to kind of laugh. I kind of like D. Wayne's horse.
Yeah.
The 7.
I do too.
Ran really well last time out. Finished 3rd, but it was a real close 3rd to 2 pretty darn good horses. Yep. One was Frosted Departure, who didn't run bad the other day, and the other one was I believe it's a Broberg horse, isn't it? Or is it a Diodoro? 2 Eagles River.
It's a Hartman horse, actually.
Hartman, yeah. Both have come back and they've run well. This horse finished 3rd. Mm-hmm. It's got a lot of experience. And this was over the track. So I like Bourbon Bash as second. My 3rd pick would be the 6 Protege. He just hasn't quite – he was very promising in his debut. Hasn't really run that well since. But Moquette's horses are running really, really well at Oaklawn.
We're got the same 3 in order. It's kind of crazy. I like Gun Pilot as well, and that'll make Shoddy happy because she has Gun Pilot on her fantasy team. And look, I think the race last time out kind of showed that he's not Verifying good, but he still ran very well. Like I said, he beat 2 Eagles River. I just think Gun Pilot from the rail here kind of controls the pace and is the one to beat. I think he's going to be tough. Let's talk about Bourbon Bash, and you kind of mentioned it. Frosted Departure, 2 Eagles River. Both horses came back, like I said, got 3rds in tough races the next start. That day, Frosted Departure, 2 Eagles River kind of galloped away from everybody except for Bourbon Bash. You look, it's 2 lengths back to Bourbon Bash, then it's another 8 basically back to everybody else. So it kind of has a look of a D. Wayne horse that, God, I mean, he's been in all kinds of just murder row type of races, taking on Forte and just really good horses. Might have found the spot here to where they can pick up a win with this horse. So stretching him out again, we'll see what happens. Protege, the 6 horse for Moquette. That's who I have in 3rd as well. Like I said, maybe we find out how good Hit Show is. A horse that was going to run last week, scratched, was going to run in the Withers. They called that race off. It'll be back next week. We'll see him eventually. You know, if Protege comes and wins, maybe that ups Hit Show's value a little bit. Hit Show beat this horse by 4.5. My deal is I'm not a huge fan of Hit Show. So, not a huge fan of Protege. Although Protege did beat Lugan Knight on debut, and that horse went on to win the Jerome Stakes. So he's got some class without any doubt. Also, you know, this horse was against Giant Mischief and Arabian Lion up at Keeneland as well. So I get it if you want to play him. It makes sense. I just kind of want to get him out of there and maybe go a 2-7 straight exacta in this one and hope to do what we did in the Southwest. I mean, anybody else that kind of has a longer price, those 3 are going to be the logical ones. Anybody else can kind of upset this thing or no?
Oh, not really. I looked at the 4 for just a second. The only thing about him, he has run a lot and sometimes experience, but I don't think he can win. Same with the 5. They both have a lot of starts under their belt, but only 1 win. That's maiden. So they really haven't done anything. The Broberg horse hasn't run that much. The other Asmussen horse, not broke its maiden, and that's it. I don't believe it's run since, has it?
Right. No.
And that was in November at
Mhm.
Remington, which signals to me Asmussen doesn't think that horse was quite ready to run again, because he usually brings him back.
Yeah, and he doesn't send the A team obviously to Remington. That's not to say that they never have a good horse win at Remington. That's not true at all. But he's, if that horse was really doing well, he probably would have been somewhere else. He does have a great pedigree,
Right.
So
don't you think he would have run at Oaklawn once before putting him in this race?
Yeah, or he would have debuted at Keeneland, or Fairgrounds even. So I think it's a good spot to try him, but I'm not overly excited about him.
I think he wasn't training very well, is what I think, or maybe a minor injury of some kind, and he's just kind of let him get a little older, get a little stronger. You never can overlook one of his, because they can come out of nowhere somewhere and really run a good race.
Yeah, no, I agree with that as well. So, we'll just see. We'll just see what happens.
Good race, really good race.
It is. It's going to be really interesting to see how this shakes out. Like I said, I think the winner is going to be right there, and going to be on the Derby Trail, or maybe the Rebel is the next spot.
Could be.
So we'll see what happens there. All right, one more that we'll talk about here before we'll go on to some early Super Bowl talks. Let's go to Sunday at Oaklawn, and this is the feature race of the day on Sunday. It's going to be a good one. An allowance going 6 furlongs here, $105,000 purse. We've got a field of 7. We've got the return of Cogburn. That's kind of why I'm going to talk about this one. I think this horse could be a good one. And we also have Chasing Time, a horse that got a lot of pub last year as well. So Asmussen kind of leading the way here. Going Asmussen, or we going somewhere else?
Well, obviously Cogburn's been hurt, right?
Right. Yeah, he's obviously had some troubles. Yeah.
Yes, he hasn't run since May of last year, and he was running great. So there was no reason to shut him down. So obviously he's had some problems. So this will be his first start since May. That's always sketchy. You kind of got to watch it. I think it's interesting that he's starting him back in an allowance. So he's going to kind of get him in where he thinks he belongs to get that first race in. I think if he's right, he's the favorite, don't you? We don't have any odds, but I would assume he will be the favorite.
Yeah.
The other horse, remember that allowance race he won at Oaklawn last year? I think it was in it was in December of 2021. Remember that one when we saw him? Oh boy, there's a superstar.
Absolutely.
He never did develop. And he was in some races where he may have been over his head, but he looked like major talent, and he never came around. He's been off since August, so he's interesting too. So there's your 2 probable winners, possible winners, ones I think will probably be favorites. Then you got to look at the 2. I kind of looked at the 2. Did you look at Improbable Journey at all?
Yeah, I think he's interesting. He kind of has that recency edge a little bit. If he runs a race 2 back, he's got a big shot, you would think.
Yeah, won by 4.5 lengths.
Yeah.
And, Larry Jones is a good trainer. So I'm going to go with the 1. And then I'm going to put the 2 second, and then Chasing Time third. So I went 1, 2, 6. I didn't see anything else. D. Wayne's horse, again, is another horse that's just overplaced,
Mm-hmm.
I think those horses get tired of getting beat, and he hadn't shown much. I'm trying to think. I looked at the 5 a little bit.
We'll lead into that one because I was going to bring up the 1, 2, 5. So I think you covered the 1 and 2 pretty well. I'm not a huge fan of Chasing Time. I'm going to leave him off here. Just like you said it pretty well, like blew out that allowance field, and it was like, okay, he's coming on, and then he just kind of sucked the rest of the time.
He didn't do anything.
Yeah, I'm not really onto him, but the 5 is interesting to me. Once upon a time, the 5 was running big races.
Yep.
And just, got a second by a neck, then won 2 straight races at Oaklawn Park. It's like, this Life is Hard horse is pretty darn good.
Mm-hmm.
And then we fell apart. We went to Churchill and we did nothing. Like, okay, well, you have a bad race every now and then bumped, pulled up, vanned off the next time, and then we haven't seen him since.
Right.
I think if they got him ready to roll and he shows up with his best race, he's the upsetter in this spot.
Yeah, you're probably right. Does being vanned off bother you?
Not necessarily. No.
Okay.
No. I mean, let me rephrase that. Not when it's a horse that's or a trainer that's had success, because it's kind of like, yeah, they know when he's ready to run again. He or she is ready to run.
Right.
Again, you know. So yeah, I it doesn't really bother me. I think the horse will show up and run pretty well in this spot. We've seen talent, and look, the two races where the horse was not good, well, obviously vanned off. The other one was at Churchill. They're both at Churchill. At Oaklawn, this horse ran extremely well, you know, in all three starts. So back at home, I like this horse to come off the pace with a chance here. I went 1-5-2.
Okay.
This is another one I'm hoping to try to get just 1-5 straight exacta to come in here. Cogburn, you talk about him and talk about races at Oaklawn Park. Gosh, he ran a fantastic race at Oaklawn Park 3-back. 2-back, he got beat by a horse named Wheeling Springs, who's really tough at this track. Now, Cogburn never should lose to that horse, but it happened. He still ran awfully well. He ran awfully well in the Chickling at Pimlico as well before this layoff. I think if these two layoff horses are ready, I think they're a little bit better than the rest of this crew.
What do you think his odds will be?
He's going to be short, and that's my hope. Is like Cogburn's 3-5, and then you can get Life is Hard, who might be like the fourth choice, and do kind of, again, another Southwest type of bet where you try to get the favorite in on top and then try to get maybe a 5-6 to 1 shot underneath.
Yeah, I think he'll be at least
Back
$6.
to pay like $7 or $8.
Right, with the Jones horse in there and the other Aspens, and I think he'll at least be. And then there's a Lucas horse that'll draw some money too.
Yeah,
I think he'll be 5-6 to 1 for sure.
Yeah, I think you'll get it. You know, it's the connections are solid, but they're not, you know, that with both fists type of solid, right?
Right.
So that's another thing. Another thing, final point on Life is Hard, bullet workout on January 28th, 5 furlongs in a minute and 3/5. That's a pretty good workout. I don't care really about workouts, but when one's coming off a layoff,
yes,
it is kind of nice to see that they're pretty sharp.
Absolutely.
So
it means the horse is sound.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah. So yeah, that's I don't know. We'll give it a shot. We'll see what happens there. But I think that 5 could be the upsetter. All right, couple of questions or comments before we move on here. Steve says he believes the Triple Crown races are too close together, and it's too much to ask the best horses, the best of the best horses on 3 weeks rest. That's his opinion there. I'll touch on that in a second. And he said with that, he's with us. Skip the Derby for those Baffert horses. Try the Preakness. It would be very interesting. He also likes Gun Pilot. So quick thoughts on the Triple Crown spacing. I tend to lean towards what Steve is saying with the caveat of if they change it, there will be a mutiny on our hands. And I don't know if we're ready for that or not. What do you think? Do you think that's ever going to get changed?
Here's what you're dealing with. It's tradition. It's tradition, you know?
Yeah.
It's hard to change something that's been around so ever. Shoddy kind of makes a point.
Yeah.
So what makes the Triple Crown so prestigious? But times have changed. You know, they don't train horses the same way they used to.
Yeah.
And I think because of the value of them in the breeding shed, they don't want to get them injured. And that's why they don't run them every 3 weeks like they used to.
Yeah.
So it is very difficult on a horse to do this. Of course, Baffert's proved it twice. He can make it happen. And so then you got to go that argument. As recently as what has it been now? 3 or 4 years ago? 4 years maybe? We had back-to-back Triple Crown winners, didn't we?
Well, not back-to-back. We had one in 2015, one in 2018.
Okay, so there were 2 years in between.
Yeah.
So there's the argument that it can be done. I mean, that wasn't that long ago. Now, there was a huge gap between 2015 and the one before.
Right.
So I don't think it's going to change in the next 3 or 4 years. I just can't see it happening. because of tradition more than anything else.
I think the biggest thing here is I don't think it's gonna devalue it for sure if they change it. There's no doubt. But I think the problem we're having is we're not those 3 races. You got the Derby and everybody kind of points for that, and that's great, and that's a big race. Then that Preakness is just it's getting killed, and that's the one, man. It is just getting killed. It has not been good.
True. It is hurting the other 2.
Yeah,
the Belmont is too. It's not. If you don't have a Triple Crown chance,
Belmont's always going to have a problem, and it doesn't really have anything to do with the spacing. It's a 1.5 mile race. And
yes,
some horses, they
can't do it. So why don't they change that?
Well, they can't change that. They just can't. But it is the Belmont. It takes a special type of horse. It really pigeonholes who can go. Like I can't think of one off the top of my head, but there's a million every year where it's like they can't get 1.5 miles. It's just that's not
they just can't.
No. So
they never won it.
What's that?
They never run 1.5 miles.
No, and that's just it. Like you take a horse like Modonigal last year. Well, he was perfect. Like he's 1.5 miles. Nest was too.
Yeah. They just run. Some of them don't. So,
yeah. So
I tell you the thing that worries me, and you'll know what I'm going to say, and I've said this since got into this. I shudder every Kentucky Derby until those races are out in that track going. One of these days, with 20 horses, we're going to have a pile up. We're going to have a couple of horses killed. We're going to have a jockey killed. And that's going to kill horse racing. And because it's the only race I know of where 20 horses run.
Yep.
And it's too many.
So that's, if you're talking about changes, that's the number one change that I think can be done over anything else, because
it's dangerous.
It is dangerous.
And if you've never been to the track, say you just watch on TV or you just watch that race, you've never heard those horses come out of that gate, and you've never seen them go by. And you don't realize how fast they're going, and you don't realize how close together they are.
And how powerful they are, too.
Yeah. And that's with 12 horses.
Yeah.
Most races don't have more than 12.
To me, it's pretty simple. It's simple logic.
It is. And it screws everything up.
Once a year, and it's in your biggest race. It doesn't make any sense. 14 would be fine, in my opinion. But
yeah. And the other thing it does, when you got 20, it screws. There's a lot of times the best horse, as we saw last year, doesn't want to run the Derby because there's so much traffic. There's so much crap that can happen.
Yeah.
And if you draw an outside post, it's just, we know why they do it. It's money. And
I'll give you another thing. If you cut down the Derby field to 14, all of a sudden you've got 6 horses that may have wanted to run in the Derby. Maybe they'll go to the Preakness.
Yeah, it makes the next race better. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So
let's face it.
The 20 best 3-year-olds, and they all run in the Derby.
Right.
And basically the winner, maybe a couple other stragglers, are the only ones that really want to go to the Preakness after this.
That's right. And there's a lot of those horses that they don't belong in the Derby.
No.
Now the argument's going to be, well, look what happened last year, and that's true.
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen very often. The other thing that I would like to see changed is draw them based on how many points they've earned.
Right. I agree with that as well. Yeah.
Why do you put a horse that may have 10 points and he gets the draw and he gets the 8 slot or the 7 slot? Yeah. And here's a horse maybe with 100 points and his draw is number 20. Now that's really fair.
Yeah. If you're going to have 20 horses, then if you're going to have 20, then they should have some order of preference over the points that they've earned.
Yeah. It's like they do in every other sport, whoever, like in the NFL, whoever's had the best record gets home field.
Yeah.
Well, whoever's has the most points gets to draw or gets to say, hey, I want the 8 slot or I want the 4 slot. And this makes sense to me, but
like I said, if you're going to keep it, if it's 14 and draw where you draw, but if you keep it at 20 and those positions are so important, I agree.
Yeah.
You have something change there as well. There's little things you could do to change it, to make it all better, but without ruining the allure of
Yeah.
3 races in 5 weeks.
But I don't know what you can do about the Preakness. It's just kind of there. There's some. Maybe go ahead and put another week. Add another week before you have it. Instead of 3, make it 4.
I don't think they will do that. I just don't think they will do that. So
no, I don't either. But
we'll see. It'll be interesting to see if they ever kind of tweak it. But I wouldn't count on it.
Tradition.
Yeah,
this is really a tradition sport. I mean,
right.
A lot of them are, but
yeah,
it's hard to change it. It really is.
Final horse racing thing here. I was going to say, by the way, the closest we ever came to that disaster scenario was the maximum security War of Will thing. I don't know how War of Will didn't go down that day when he got bumped, and he was ahead of every horse but one.
What a mess.
What would have happened? I don't really know. And that was, I want to say I may not be right about that. I think the Santa Anita thing was going on too around that time. Not sure though. Better not say that. All right. Trish asks thoughts on Santa Anita Derby, Bob Baffert Fields, or Santa Anita Bob Baffert Fields, I should say, this weekend. 4-horse race in the Robert Lewis. Bob Baffert has all 4. I mean, you're not the hardcore racing person, so this is good to ask. I mean, any interest for you, somebody who watches it, but not, I don't have to watch every single race type of guy. Any interest in this for you?
Well, no, and there's a couple of one. There's only 4 races or horses in the race. That I don't like to watch a 4-horse race very well.
Yeah.
And when there's no other, no, not really, because we know which trainer's going to win, and I don't
get into this a little bit deeper coming up on Bleeker's Off in a couple of hours, but it's where are the horses? That's the thing. Like, you watch California racing during the summer when the 2-year-olds debut at Del Mar, and even their fall meet, and they have 2-year-old main special weights, and the fields are usually, if they're not full, they still are larger fields.
Yeah.
And then you get to this point, and Baffert's the only one that's entering horses. I want to say 14 out of the 16 or 15 out of the 17 nominations for this race were Bob Baffert horses, which means only 2 trainers in Southern California nominated a horse for the race, let alone entered a horse for the race.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
What's the purse?
I think it's, what is it, 250 or 3? It's not very much. And Magic pointed that out, that the purses out there are not great for stakes races. Let me pull it up so I can tell you exactly. It's 200,000.
Yeah, that's not much.
Yeah.
If you don't think your horse can win.
Right.
Didn't that tell you they don't think they have a horse that can beat him?
Yeah, and that's just it, and that's what Michael alludes to as well. But you've got horses out there that I would think it's like you got to enter them eventually. Like, what are you doing? So I don't know. I don't know
either. That's odd.
A lot of people want to blame Baffert for that. I don't really think. What do you want him to do?
What's supposed to do? Say I don't want to take that horse.
Yeah. I don't think it's a Baffert problem. I think it's more of a California problem.
Well, I shouldn't say that.
Purses, Southwest ran for triple, basically quadruple.
True. You can't beat those purses.
Maybe it would have made a difference, or would make a difference. I don't know. So
I don't know. I just don't think there's anything to do about it. If these owners want to continue to give their horse to him, well, what are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
The other thing, before we close the book on this Kentucky Derby deal, the horse racing industry, they don't understand, I don't think, that most people, they might watch 3, 4, 5 races a year. That's it.
Yeah.
They don't know anything about it. And if they're going to watch a race, they're going to watch the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah.
They don't understand there's 20 horses in the field, and any other time there's just 8 or 10. They don't get that.
Yeah.
The problem is, what the horse racing industry needs to understand, if something tragic happens in that Kentucky Derby, they're going to take a hit that they may not recover from, because people don't realize horses get hurt. Mm-hmm. They get hurt. Jockeys get hurt. That's part of the game. We hate it, but it's part of it. Most people don't get that, but they're going to see it on the main race, and that's what scares me the most about that. Because people like you and me, we know this happens. It can happen anywhere in any race.
Right.
But general public, they don't get it.
Yeah, they do not get that at all.
Yeah, most people don't realize there's 14 other races that day at the Kentucky Derby. A lot of people think that's the only one.
Yeah. Again, the general public doesn't really have a good understanding for that kind of stuff. And it's
scary. It really scares me. I'm afraid it's going to happen one of these days, but maybe not.
Hopefully not. But I'm with you. We think about that a lot. Even in our circle, we're like, yeah, gosh, I know it's a lot of horses.
Anyway.
Last question here: Are other trainers saving their best until closer to the Derby? I'm guessing talk about California horses. Yeah, maybe that could be part of it. Saving them for the last 2 rounds of preps. I think when you have like a practical move, for example, who won the Los Alpha Charity, maybe he's waiting until the San Felipe and the San Diego Derby. I think when these point races early have such a low, point total that you can get, that's
possible.
What happens. People wait,
What did they get for the Southwest? 10?
I think Southwest was worth 20.
20.
Yeah, but the other ones are worth 50 and 100. So
yeah,
big difference.
That's a good point. That's a good point. It could be waiting. Yeah,
could be waiting. And as Marla, you probably know, the big horses from as 2-year-olds, as Forte and a Cave Rock, they're waiting for them as well. They're kind of getting them back going right now, gearing up for March races. So
yeah,
I'm sure California.
But these fields have never been like this before, have they?
Yeah, they're always pretty light, but never like he has 80% or 100%.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Maybe he has 50% of them.
Yeah.
So.
Oh well.
Yeah. Anyway. All right. Well.
It is what it is.
Let's go. What do I have lined up? Here we go. Going to pull up the Super Bowl. We'll talk about it for a minute here before we get out of here. It's interesting. Just what day was that? Wednesday. It was 2.5 for Philadelphia, and we all kind of thought, well, maybe this is settling down to the line where we think. No, Philadelphia now a 1.5 point favorite. So the line has moved again. What are your thoughts on this game as of right now?
Well, I kind of said it yesterday. I think the Chiefs should be a 1.5 point favorite. I guess they're not because of Mahomes, and the receivers kind of banged up. I don't know how hurt the receivers are. Have you heard anything? I haven't really heard much.
No new update on anything yet. I think it's still a little early.
So maybe that's the reason. I don't know. I am an Eagles fan. I am, and I hope they win. But I wasn't impressed with the Eagles Sunday. I just wasn't, because I watched a team do what they should do to a team that had no chance after the quarterback went out. They had no chance to win the game. When all you're going to do is run the ball, it's pretty easy to stop you. And eventually your defense is going to cave in. And that's exactly what happened. The 49ers defense finally just caved in, and you take away the penalties that their defense got, which I know you can't. I think if Purdy had stayed in the game, the Niners might have won the game. Am I the only one that thinks that? I just came away not as impressed with the Eagles as most people are. I didn't think they moved the ball very well.
They didn't look great. And I don't know if it was a situation where they kind of felt like we've got this game in hand.
Maybe.
In a way. And it's like, well, we're all right. Like we've got them. We kind of they got ahead, and it's just like, yeah, we're better than them. They can't move the ball. Just don't make any mistakes. Like, don't give them any points type of thing.
That may be. They may have changed their game plan. I heard the announcer, by the way, I like those two guys that did the game. I heard him say they'll change their game plan now. As soon as that quarterback went out. I think his name's Greg Olsen.
Greg Olsen. So, yeah, I'll talk about that in a second, but go ahead with your point. Yeah.
When he said that, I thought, that's pretty good, because they will. because they now know they don't have to score a lot of points. And the only way the 49ers can win is if they make mistakes. And I thought that was a very good point. You may be totally right. They may have shut it down. They knew they had, once they got up 21-7, they knew they had the game. So that is a good point. They may have just kind of shut things down and not show everything they've got. I'm still taking the Chiefs at this point, unless something comes up and other injuries pop up.
I think the big key, minus the injury situation, which is big, but I think the big key is the Chiefs really were able to dominate the front of the Bengals.
Yes.
They couldn't run the ball. They couldn't protect the quarterback. It should be a different story in this game. They should have some trouble with the Eagles front. And I think the Eagles offensive front will be much better than Cincinnati. The Chiefs have had trouble stopping the run, and that could be a big factor that leans the Eagles' way, both with Hurts and their ground attack is fantastic. I think that could be a big factor for the Eagles.
Were you impressed? I was, at how the Chiefs won. They won the game, and Mahomes was fine, but he didn't have to win the game for them.
No, they won it with the defense.
They did.
Yeah,
and that's something they haven't done. Sandy and I were sitting there watching it, and when the Bengals got the ball back with 2:26 to go, it was something like that. They stopped them and they had to punt it. We both looked at each other and said, "They've got this game right where they want it."
Yeah.
And then they completed that pass on 3rd and 19, I think it was, and they got the first down. The Bengals did.
Yep.
And it was up around the 38, 40-yard line.
I thought when that happened, the game was over.
I did too. And then they made one of the dumbest play calls I've ever seen. They got I think it was just a little pass to a back out there, and he was covered, and they got 2 yards, and then Burrows threw a deep ball, had no chance. I thought I did not think Burrows played very well. I didn't think I thought he was off. And I think it was the Chiefs' pressure.
Yeah, it was the pressure got doing. Yeah, the pressure, their front absolutely made his life a living hell that night.
And you said that was if that happened, the Chiefs were going to win, and that's exactly what happened.
Yep.
I just thought the Bengals kind of hung on all day, and then I thought they were going to win. I did.
The whole game, I was watching, and I felt like the Chiefs they should be way ahead of them.
Yes.
Early in the game, I'm like, they should have been ahead 27-0 or 27-3, and they blew all those chances. And then, they had the injuries, and they really stalled. And I thought, oh man, I don't know, this is going to be the Bengals are going to win this thing. And then the Bengals could not take advantage of that offense stalling out. And said they made enough plays. The Chiefs got a lot of calls for sure.
Did.
However, I bet Cincinnati, and I'm like, they had every chance in the world to win, and they didn't.
When you play Mahomes and you get the ball and it's tied with 2:26 to go, you have to run out the clock and win the game. You have to.
Yep.
And they had that opportunity, and they didn't do it. And then the penalty they got at the end, there's no excuse for that. There just isn't.
The problem with that penalty was it was 100,000,000,000% a penalty. Number one,
it was a penalty, and anybody that says it's not is wrong.
Well, and I think the problem people had is the Bengals did not get a couple of roughing the passer.
That's true.
Calls.
I agree with that.
And couple that with all the shitty calls that went the Bengals' way, and that was the tip of the iceberg. But when he did that, before I even saw the penalty, I said, "Well, they're going to kick a 40-yard field goal."
Yeah, I mean,
100, but you can't do that. So
no, and it was so. Well, here's the other thing: you got to know it's Mahomes. You can't hit him.
Yeah,
but he was 2 feet out of bounds. I mean, had both feet out of bounds to hit him. It was not even close.
No.
Now I think there was 8 seconds left whenever that happened, wasn't there?
I think there was. Yeah, 8 seconds. Yeah.
So was that 3rd down or 4th down?
That was 3rd down.
Okay, so they would have got another play.
Yeah, I mean, he gets the 1st down. I mean, you're kicking a 58-yard field goal.
But he could have run another play in 8 seconds.
Yeah.
They could have run a little out pattern or something because they had another timeout. They could have even thrown it over the middle. no guarantee that they wouldn't have got closer to where he could have made that field goal.
Right.
But it's still, you just can't do that in that situation. You can't
No.
do it.
No.
But I just think the Chiefs, I was very impressed with the fact that the Chiefs won the game and Mahomes didn't have to do something real heroic. I mean, that was a great run he made right there. But he obviously was hurting in that game. He did not have the mobility that he normally has.
Their offense will have to be better. It'll have to be a lot better
it will
get the job done against the Eagles. The Eagles will be able to move the ball a little bit better because I think their offense is just built a little differently than that Bengals offense. And it starts with the offensive line. And, yeah, I mean, Jared chimes in now, and I think he's right in what you're alluding to. You had one more play. They probably would have gotten within range. Maybe they don't get as close, but they're probably within range to make it.
Well, they had 8 seconds. You can do a lot in 8 seconds. Yeah. And like I say, they had their timeouts. So they could have thrown something over the middle, like 10 yards over the middle.
Yeah.
And that's a very good point. And I do think that we're putting just a little bit too much on that penalty because they did have timeouts and they had 8 seconds. So it wasn't necessarily.
A lot of the penalties that went against them, the 3 on that drive where they gave them like 6 chances to get a first down, the Bengals stopped them. If that would have led to a touchdown, then you're like, wow, they really got screwed. But they got screwed, but it didn't really affect them.
It did not.
So it really, they got some horrible calls, but at the end of the day, they had every chance in the world to win, and they did.
Yep.
So
if I was a Chiefs fan, I would be happy with the way my defense is playing.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. They won the game. They won the game for him for sure. Russ says y'all pulling for Jalen Hurts. You Papa Dude is for sure. He loves Jalen Hurts.
I do. I like his toughness. I loved him when he was at OU. Yeah. I don't know if he's good enough to pull this off. He is with his feet. I think he's going to have to make plays with his arm. We're going to have to see if he can do it. It's a different style the Chiefs are going to have to defend, though, because they can't just all-out rush this guy.
Nope. No, he'll beat you.
You got to change their pass rush because you got to make sure you know where he is at all times.
You're right. It's different. Like he's not as good a quarterback as Joe Burrow, but he might be able to expose some things on that Chiefs defense that is a weakness. So it's give and take.
It is.
The Eagles are not going to be easy to stop, but neither are the Chiefs. So
no, it's a fascinating matchup. It's going to be a great game, and the NFL got what they wanted. So. And I agree. I'm not a guy that blames referees very often. They didn't. The calls favored the Chiefs, but the Chiefs still won the game. They did enough to win the game, and you got to get past it. They're there, and had their defense not played like it had, they wouldn't have been there.
The Cincinnati, the crowd or fans or whatever, they also that nobody talks about. You punted him to like the 30-yard line, and you let the guy take it to midfield.
Absolutely. That's another thing.
Make a tackle on the punt return, and the Chiefs were not getting in field goal range.
No, there was nobody near that guy. There was nobody near him.
No, and so end of the day, there was a play there where they'd have made it. They could have got into overtime.
Well,
who knows what happens because the Chiefs' offense was really bogged down.
Right. And if you're one of the best quarterbacks in the league, you win that game.
Well, I know that. Yeah, but I'm saying there's other things you can point to as well.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's
no doubt.
Every chance. So,
and I still say this: I don't care where you're at, you can't run your mouth off like they did.
Yeah.
The week before, it comes back to bite your butt every time, and to say anything derogatory about Arrowhead Stadium and coming in there and you're going to own the Chiefs and all. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
They screwed up.
You don't do that. You just don't do that. I mean, Chiefs are the kings. It's that simple. I mean, if you're going to get to the Super Bowl from the AFC, you got to go through the Chiefs. It's that simple.
Yeah, it is. And it's hard enough to go in there and win as it is. And so, that was dumb. And you could tell the Chiefs, it bothered them and they had their attention. So
it did. Yeah. They were going to get their attention enough without doing that, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, Kelsey, it very much upset him. You could tell he had some choice words. It's pretty funny.
That's pretty
Tell
good.
Kelsey is a wrestling fan because he had some wrestling
I
lines.
could see him being a wrestler.
I could too. That might be when he retires. He might go in and do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing I don't like about Travis Kelsey, and unless you live here, you won't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Him and Aaron Sachs on those commercials, I just about throw up every time.
It's funny. It's funny because Kelsey, like they portray him as like this straight edge on those commercials too.
Yeah.
And I mean, Kelsey's not a bad guy at all.
Oh God,
Don't get
no.
me wrong, but he's not a straight edge guy.
Yeah.
So it's
Now,
hilarious.
some of them are kind of funny, but the commercials. But I mean, you can just tell Aaron Sachs worships this guy.
Yeah.
He loves him.
It's a weird dynamic. It's a very
It really is.
very uncomfortable.
Oh, it's funny.
All right. Well, that's all we got. You got anything?
I want to just briefly get your opinion on a couple of things. And
Okay. I can't
no. This is not sports.
Okay.
Tom Brady, what do you think?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we said we were going to talk about Tom.
Just briefly.
I hate that he came back this year. I wish.
Yeah.
This year. Yeah.
I'm going to miss him.
Yeah. Sure.
And I think the NFL is going to miss him because he was a story.
Yeah.
And I think he finally realized that he's got to have a great team around him with the way he has to play now. He simply cannot move. And I think it finally dawned on him, hey, I got to have a tremendous offensive line. I've got to have a great running game. I got to have great receivers. I got no chance. And I think he found that out this year. But Dennis says he'll be back. I don't know. I just don't think he can do this twice. I just don't think he can.
He seemed to be in hell this year.
Yeah, he didn't enjoy it.
That's the way I would describe it. He seemed to be very unhappy. So
yeah,
he got a divorce. I mean, this guy, he's been through some shit.
Yeah, he has. I just think he kind of regretted the decision he made to come back.
Yeah, I don't think he's coming back.
No, I think he's done. But I don't know that we'll ever see another guy like him. I just don't. To play the game at the level he did at that age is remarkable, and he still threw the ball well.
Yeah. No, when he had time, he still looked like.
Oh yeah, he still zings it, man.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'll miss him, but I'm glad. It's time.
It's time.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to throw out some teams, college basketball teams. You tell me what you think their chances are to make the Final Four.
Oh, okay.
Not just to win the national championship.
Just the Final Four, yeah.
Or to make a significant run. Let's say that.
Oh, let's say Final Four.
Okay, all right, here we go. Yeah. I got the top 20 right here in front of me.
Okay.
Number 1 is Purdue.
20% chance.
Isn't that amazing that here's a team that year in and year out is right there?
Yeah.
And you said 20%?
Yep.
I don't know that I will go that high.
Okay. I don't think they'll be there. No.
And I'm very respectful of them. I think I just don't know. They never do. They just get upset somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this. I've watched them quite a bit this year. The big kid inside is a matchup problem for anybody.
They always have a big kid inside.
Okay.
They do.
All right.
It's just that they always have that.
Yeah. Number 2 right now, and they lost last night, so we know what our answer is. Tennessee.
No. Like 8.
All right, so we've already knocked out number 1 and number 2.
I wouldn't bet Tennessee to make the Final Four ever.
All right. Number 3, Houston. They made it last year.
No, I know. And they gosh.
I'm feeling good though.
I don't know. Probably
My intuition
I
says
like 10%. 10% chance. I
10?
Yeah. They're pretty good. I don't know though. Anytime they play anybody good, they don't play as well.
I have not seen them enough this year. I don't have to see them. I know what they are.
Yeah.
A lot of their chances are the matchups they have getting into it.
Yeah.
You know, if they play a super talented team,
Yeah.
might not be able to score enough. You know, I'm going to rate them 35%.
Oh, gosh.
They made it last year.
Come on.
No,
Go ahead. Who's next?
All right, number 4, Alabama.
0.1% chance.
Any team that can come into Norman, Oklahoma and get beat by 24 is 0%. They have flaws all over the place.
I'll give them 0.1. Anybody can get hot. 0.1%.
I think they have the talent. I just don't think that. So the top 4 teams so far. Right, what'd you give Purdue? 10?
20. I gave
20. That's your top choice so far. They got 20%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number 5 right now is Arizona.
I give them a better shot than the last few you mentioned. I'd say 10 to 20.
I'll go 10.
I think
They lost at home to a horrible team.
Yeah, but I think they're.
Yeah, I don't like them.
Yeah.
They're soft. Number 6, Virginia.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be wide open. I don't like Virginia.
That's the point I'm getting at here.
Yeah.
They're the type of team, though, they play the same all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, matchups. They get some team that wants to run up and down the floor, and they can slow them down and frustrate them. They can beat them. But I don't think they're that good. So, okay, 7, Kansas State.
A 0.
Right.
0.
Are you shocked they're as good as they are? This is unreal.
Yeah, but
they're been a long time.
They're going to get beat in the first round.
They're
going to beat it in the first weekend. I think they'll get beat.
All right, here we go. Number 8, Kansas.
I don't think they're very good.
They're starting to play.
They're a team they'll get better. I mean, they've got a shot. They've got as good a shot as any, but I mean, they don't.
Absolutely.
They don't impress me very much.
Last 2 games, they went in Kentucky. They're not as good as they have been, but they kicked them.
Yeah.
They beat the snot out of K-State the other night. The Bill Self's teams usually come on at the end of the year.
I mean,
they're my pick right at the moment, and I don't think they're that good.
I don't think they should be your pick.
All right. I don't know that there's any reason to go on. You have number 9 is UCLA.
There's 2 left in the top 10.
All right, UCLA.
I would give them a shot. They
probably be my second pick.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're great, but I think they will be good enough to get there, and they play the style of ball where you can get.
They do.
Yeah.
Number 10 is Texas.
If their coach hadn't got arrested, I really liked them, and I really liked him.
I do too. At times, they look really good. I watched them the other night against Baylor, and I thought they looked really good.
But with what's happened, I can't.
Well, and they don't ever make a run. Texas never makes a run.
Yeah, but they had the guy that could do it. I mean,
I agree.
This guy almost won the national championship, and they had it really in their hands at Texas Tech. So it would have been. He's a phenomenal coach, but again, I don't know where he'll show up if he shows up again.
Yeah,
he's a great coach, but obviously not a good human. So
and there's going to be a sleeper come out of nowhere, but I couldn't tell you who in the heck that might be.
No, but I do think it sets up as it's going to get crazy because these teams are not anywhere near dominant.
No, there is not a dominant team anywhere.
No.
In this, you've got, the Big 12 is just a cluster. It's just, who knows? But normally when you have a conference like this and you get into that tournament, they don't play very well.
Yeah.
I don't know whether they're wore out going into it. So it's hard to pick a Big 12 team other than Kansas. The SEC is pretty tough with Alabama and Auburn and Tennessee, but those aren't traditional tournament teams.
No.
Your traditional team, Kentucky, is struggling. Arkansas is not playing very well. I wouldn't give up on them yet. Then you got the Big Ten, which is down just a little. I mean, they're still solid, but they don't have that great team other than Purdue, because Michigan State's not very good. Ohio State's not very good. Michigan's not very good. So, and then you got UCLA, and you got Arizona. And the Big East is not as strong. They still are good. You got Providence, you got Xavier.
But those teams aren't going to make the Final Four. They're not Final Four teams.
I don't think they are either, but somebody's got to.
I know.
Gonzaga's down. They're not near what they've been.
No, this is probably a year they make it.
Probably, yeah. St. Mary's might be the best team in that conference.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's wide open. Trying to pick these games every night is so hard. You don't know who's going to show up. Last night, I got lucky with Pittsburgh. Went into North Carolina. Pittsburgh's pretty good. By the way, did you see who Pittsburgh's coach is?
No.
Jeff Capel, who was at Oaklawn.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
They're pretty good. They played great. They got behind and came back. So, another team, Duke's not as good as they have been.
Yeah, you knew that would happen.
Yeah. They're still pretty good, but they're not.
Yeah.
Now, come tournament time, who knows?
Yeah.
Same thing with North Carolina. They can turn it on. That's the deal. When you get into those tournaments, those tournament-tested teams, tradition-rich, they're hard to knock out of there.
Yeah, you saw it last year. North Carolina, Duke, Kansas all made it.
That's right. Those teams are hard to deal with when you get in there. It's going to be a heck of a tournament coming down the stretch, I tell you.
Yeah, it's going to be entertaining. That's going to be entertaining for sure. His second straight year where it's just like, I don't know. There's no dominant team whatsoever.
Yeah. You know what? I think the NBA is wide open.
Yeah, it is, but that's not – it doesn't have that.
Your glamour teams in the West, Phoenix, Golden State, the Lakers to a certain extent, although they haven't been very good for a couple of years, still a glamour team. They're not very good.
No, NBA, they'll get some of those teams that are like that, they'll get going though.
No,
you can't. It's hard to predict it right now. They're
Are you
kind of in
going,
the dog days.
Yeah. Are you in hockey? Are you going with the Bruins?
No, I probably won't. I don't know who yet, but
They're one of those teams that get them in the playoffs. I don't know if they can score enough.
Yep, I think you can beat them. I don't know who I'm going to go with yet there, but kind of like Minnesota a little bit. Just needing to see what teams do at the deadline. That's going to be the key.
That's true.
There's going to be some movement. So,
and whoever survives that East, who?
And I mean, the Avalanche are playing a lot better right now.
Yeah, they're starting to play.
They're still the team to beat.
They are playing great. Yeah.
Bruins are good, but I probably won't pick them to win it. I think they could make it for sure.
I think they're one of those regular season teams.
Yeah,
which you see sometimes.
They've got depth, and that's such a huge key in the NHL for the playoffs. So,
and they're steady.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be tough. You're going to have to go into that building and beat them, and that's not easy.
No.
But I just think end of the day, the NHL, it's heavy on skill right now. There's a lot of really skilled players, and the Bruins don't have that elite guy.
I can see them losing some 2-1.
Yeah. I think if you could bottle them up, you could beat them. But listen, they're going to be tough to beat.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see. Yeah. That's going to
be great too down the stretch.
Yeah.
If you like hockey, there are really some great hockey teams.
There are, yeah. It's there's people who can score. A lot of teams can really score. So.
Yep.
Well.
All right.
We have got Blinkers Off is going to come on in 49 minutes. So at 2:00 Central Time, we'll have Blinkers Off. Talking now just 2 Kentucky Derby prep races because of the Withers being canceled and moved to next week. But we will talk about that Bob Baffert Invitational and the Holy Bull. And we'll rapid fire a lot of different stakes from around the country. You got stakes races everywhere. So we'll talk about those, including the Bayakoa that we talked about on this show. We'll talk about on Blinkers Off as well. And I'm sure we'll recap what happened last weekend. So a lot going on here. Coming up, like I said, 49 minutes away. Yeah, Jason said another midday stream. Get a job. I know. Yeah, I'm glad we're lucky that we can do this all day. So, all right. That's it. Any final thoughts?
Nope.
Okay.
I don't have anything.
All right, guys, we will be back next week for this show. We'll be back in 45 minutes or so for Blinkers Off. We'll be back tomorrow morning with another Dudes Who Bet Daily. So a lot going on. Oh, wait, Magic Mike at 4 o'clock Central Time as well. So a lot going on. Stay tuned, and good luck to everybody playing this weekend.
This is Dudes Who Bet Sports. Dudes Who Bet Sports, it's your favorite show. Dudes Who Bet Sports, where degenerates go. Dudes Who Bet Sports, time to change your approach with Aaron Halterman and his father, the coach. Let's ride.
Well, the Associated Press is full of shit.